have heard stories like the Lusitania, the Britannic, and maybe even the RMS Laconia, and you've definitely heard the sinking of the Titanic. But one maritime disaster that you may have not heard of is the sinking of the Empress of Ireland. Overshadowed by World War I, sinking of the Empress of Ireland is one of the most deadliest maritime disasters in Canada's history. So without no more stalling, let's begin. The Empress of Ireland was owned by the Canadian Pacific Railway Company and was built by the Fairland Shipbuilding and Engineering Company. She also had a sister ship. The sister ship was the Empress of Britain. Both ships lacked in size, but both ships did have safety. The Empress of Ireland had 11 watertight compartments and 24 watertight doors. The Empress of Ireland could stay afloat with 2 compartments filled up, but if a third compartment was filled up, it could possibly lead to danger for the vessel. They were also the biggest in the Canadian line. June 29, 1906 is when the Empress of Ireland started its maiden voyage, leaving the city of Liverpool and then going to the city of Quebec. It would arrive at Quebec on July 7, 1906. 1909, when the Empress of Ireland was crossing into the St. Lawrence River, just then something hits the ship from under the water. Luckily, the ship isn't sinking and moves to Quebec. And just then, when it moves into Quebec to inspect the damage, just then fire broke out from the Quebec waterfront. Luckily, the Empress of Ireland was able to get away with only few damages. It's May 28, 1914. The Empress of Ireland is getting ready to depart. It's about to leave Quebec and go to Liverpool. At 4:30 p.m., when the ship starts to leave, the Salvation Army, which was on board the ship, started to play a song called God Be With You Till We Meet Again. And they would play this until the ship fully leaves the dock of Quebec. Everything was proceeding smoothly on the Empress of Ireland. The captain of the Empress of Ireland was a person named Henry George Kendall. This was his first time with the Empress of Ireland, but he was an experienced captain. There was another ship. This other ship was named the Storstad. The captain of the Storstad was a man named Thomas Anderson. What could possibly go wrong? It's May 29, 1914. Back to the Empress. Captain Kendall decides to do a course change, mainly to avoid the Storstad. Kendall does this because he doesn't want to hit the Storstad. Somewhere at 1:50 a.m., a misty fog would roll around. Now, due to this misty fog, the Empress of Ireland stopped, but the Storstad did not stop. And just then, the Storstad made a maneuver that would change the fate of this night. This course change would put the Storstad in a direct collision to the Empress of Ireland. But how could they have known that the Storstad was going directly into a collision course to the Empress of Ireland? Yes, they were using whistles to tell where each ship was. Even with these whistles, they could not tell where the other ship was at that point in time. Just then, the Storstad appears from the fog. Kendall orders to start up the engines to try to avoid the Storstad. But it's already too late. At 1:54 a.m., the Storstad would collide right into the middle of the Empress of Ireland. Immediately, water from the St. Lawrence River started to ease its way into the Empress of Ireland. Kendall orders to close all watertight doors, but there's really no use. Kendall looks to the Storstad and with a megaphone says that Storstad should stay into the Empress of Ireland, but just then Storstad would move away from the Empress of Ireland, immediately letting more water into the Empress. Kendall's mindset was that if the Storstad would stay in the Empress of Ireland, that would delay a lot of the water from coming into the ship. But the reason why the Storstad had moved away from the Empress of Ireland was not because of their doing, because the current of the St. Lawrence River had drifted them and detached them from the Empress of Ireland. Immediately, once the Storstad had detached from the Empress of Ireland, a starboard list would happen on the Empress of Ireland. Passengers who were in the space where the Storstad had hit were immediately killed, and passengers on lower classes would immediately be rushed with water as the starboard list grew sharper and sharper. Meanwhile, Captain Kindle wanted to try to beach the ship, but when the Stortstad had hit the Empress of Ireland, it flooded the 2 boiler rooms, meaning that the ship could not move. At 1:57 a.m., the order was given out to start lowering the lifeboats by Captain Kindle. At 1:58 a.m., the power of the Empress of Ireland would go out, leaving people who are still trapped in the Empress of Ireland plunged into darkness, which, side note, is very terrifying. And as this was happening, the steam of the Empress of Ireland would start to go out the funnels as the list kept getting sharper. Somewhere at 2 a.m., the first lifeboat is launched, but capsizes. At 2:01 a.m., the first 2 lifeboats are launched successfully. At 2:03 a.m., an explosion is heard from the doomed vessel. At that same time, the Empress of Ireland starts to give in as it starts rolling to starboard and officially capsizes, crushing many people. When all this was happening, the Stortstad, which when it crashed with the Empress of Ireland, went back into the fog, heard all of the Empress of Ireland's screams, but didn't see it because of the fog. Now, the Stortstad actually was not sinking and was floating. So at that time, when he started hearing all the screams of passengers on board the Empress of Ireland, he sends a lifeboat. Back to the Empress, passengers who were still on the boat climbed onto the port side, while the starboard side was completely underwater and capsized. A lot of passengers thought that the Empress of Ireland had touched the ground. This was far from the truth, though. A lot of people who actually slept through the disaster, woken up, tried to climb through portholes. And on May 29, 1914, at 2:08 a.m., the Empress of Ireland would slip beneath the waves, taking many lives with her. The first ship to start bringing survivors on board would be the Stortstad, and one of the crew that survived was Captain Kinley, who was thrown off of his bridge when the ship capsized, but survived. 465 would survive the sinking of the Empress of Ireland, while 1,012 would die that night. An inquiry was held, and the conclusion was that the Stortstad was guilty. Sadly, this disaster was overshadowed by the start of World War I. It is the reason why not many people know about this disaster. Ironically, the Stortstad was sold off and sunk in World War I. Right now, the Empress of Ireland wreck lies under the St. Lawrence River, where it sank, mainly only for skilled divers. The Empress of Ireland took 14 minutes to sink. And that was the story of the Empress of Ireland. I hope you enjoyed this video. It is shorter than my Titanic one, but still pretty good. Credits to Ocean Liner Designs. That was the photos of the animation that you saw. I will leave that in the description if you want to see. It's the real-time animation, how it sank in 14 minutes, which is just crazy, how that ship sank in 14 minutes. And that'll be in the description, just like my Titanic one. The animation will be left in the description, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a wonderful day. Bye!